An AutoRun.inf file is a text file that can be used by the AutoRun and AutoPlay components of Microsoft Windows operating systems. For the file to be discovered and used by these components, it must be located in the root directory of a volume. As Windows has a case-insensitive view of file names, the AutoRun.inf file can be stored as AutoRun.inf or Autorun.inf or any other case combination. The AutoRun component was introduced in Windows 95 as a way of reducing support costs. AutoRun enabled application CD-ROMs to automatically launch a program which could then guide the user through the installation process. By placing settings in an AutoRun.inf file, manufacturers could decide what actions were taken when their CD-ROM was inserted. The simplest AutoRun.inf files have just two settings, one specifying an icon to represent the CD in Windows Explorer and one specifying which application to run. Extra settings have been added in successive versions of Windows to support AutoPlay and add new features. The AutoRun.inf file, AutoRun.inf is an ASCII text file located in the root folder of a CD-ROM or other volume device medium. The structure is that of a classic Windows INI file, containing information and commands as key equals value pairs, grouped into sections. These keys specify the name and the location of a program to call when the medium is inserted. The name of a file that contains an icon that represents the medium in Explorer. Commands for the menu that appears when the user right-clicks the drive icon. The default command that runs when the user double-clicks the drive icon. Settings that alter autoplay detection routines or search parameters. Settings that indicate the presence of drivers. Abuse AutoRun.inf has been used to execute a malicious program automatically, without the user knowing. This functionality was removed in Windows 7 and a patch for Windows XP and Vista was released on August 25, 2009 and included in Microsoft Automatic Updates on February 8, 2011. Inf handling the mere existence of an AutoRun.inf file on a medium does not mean that Windows will automatically read it or use its settings. How an inf file is handled depends on the version of Windows in use, the volume drive type and certain registry settings. Assuming registry settings allow, the following AutoRun.inf handling takes place: Windows versions prior to Windows XP, on any drive type, the AutoRun.inf is read, parsed and instructions followed immediately and silently. The AutoRun task is the application specified by the open or shell execute keys. If an AutoRun task is specified, it is executed immediately without user interaction. Windows XP, prior to Service Pack 2, introduction of AutoPlay. Drives of type drive CD-ROM invoke AutoPlay if no AutoRun.inf file is found. Drives of type drive removable do not use the AutoRun.inf file. Any discovered removable media are handled by AutoPlay. All other handling is as before. XP Service Pack 2 and up, drives of type drive fixed are now handled by AutoPlay. Any specified AutoRun task appears as an option within the AutoPlay dialog together with any text specified by the optional action key. Drives of type drive removable now use AutoRun.inf but continue to be handled by AutoPlay. Any specified AutoRun task needs to be paired with a mandatory action key to appear as an option within the AutoPlay dialog. Otherwise the AutoRun task is omitted. All other handling is as before. Vista and later, the AutoRun task is no longer automatically and silently executed on any drive type. All volumes are handled by AutoPlay which, by default, will present an appropriate dialog to the user. Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 8.1, Windows 10, for all drive types, except drive CD-ROM, the only keys available in the AutoRun section are label and icon. Any other keys in this section will be ignored. Thus only CD and DVD media types can specify an AutoRun task or affect double-click and right-click behavior. There is a patch available, KB 9710029 for Windows XP and later, that will change AutoRun functionality to this behavior. A simple example this simple AutoRun.inf file specifies setup eggs as the application to run when AutoRun is activated. The first icon stored within the setup eggs itself will represent the drive in Explorer. Sections, following other sections and keys allowed in a valid AutoRun.inf. There also exist architecture-specific section types for systems such as Windows NT 4 running on RISC. However, these are long outdated and not described here. Autorun the Autorun section contains the default Autorun commands. An Autorun.inf file must contain this section to be valid. Keys allowed are, action equals text, action equals at, filepath / filename, resourced. Windows XP SP2 or later. Drives of type drive removable and drive fixed. Specifies text used in the AutoPlay dialog to represent the program specified in the open or shall execute keys. The text is expressed as either text or as a resource reference. The icon is displayed next to the text. This item is always first in the AutoPlay dialog and is always selected by default. If the key does not appear on drives of type drive removable, the AutoPlay dialog appears but without additional menu items. Essentially, the Autorun task is omitted. This makes the action key mandatory for drives of this type. Drive fixed, default text is created and used in the AutoPlay dialog. On all other drive types the key is ignored. Icon equals icon file name, index, the name of a file resource containing an icon. This icon replaces the standard drive icon in Windows Explorer. This file must be in the same directory as the file specified by the open key. Label equals text, specifies a text label representing the drive in Windows Explorer. Open equals, exepath / exefile, param1, param2. Specifies the path, file name and optional parameters to the application that Autorun launches when a user inserts a disk in the drive. It is the create process function that is called by Autorun. Note that if the application name includes spaces the path should be enclosed in double quote, for example open equals spreadsheets, shall execute equals, filepath / file name, param1, param2. Windows 2000, Windows ME or later. Similar to Open, but using file association information to run the application. The file name can therefore be an executable or a data file. It is the shall execute X function that is called by Autorun. Use AutoPlay equals 1. Windows XP or later. Drives of type drive CD-ROM. Use AutoPlay rather than Autorun with CD-ROMs. The action taken on CD-ROM insertion will depend on the version of Windows being used. On versions of Windows earlier than XP, this key has no effect and actions specified by open or shall execute are performed. On Windows XP and later, the user will be presented with the AutoPlay dialog and any actions specified by open or shall execute are ignored. Shall /verb /command equals, exepath / exefile, param1, param2. Adds a custom command to the drive's shortcut menu. Verb is a string with no embedded spaces. Verb is also the text that will appear in the shortcut menu unless specifically altered to some other text. See below for an example. Shall /verb equals menu text, optionally specify the text displayed in the shortcut menu for the verb above. Use an ampersand to select a hotkey for the menu. See below for an example. Shall equals verb defines the menu command referred to by shall /verb as the default command in the shortcut menu. The default command is the command executed when the drive icon is double-clicked. If missing, the default menu item will be AutoPlay, which launches the application specified by the open entry. Example. Content equals, Windows Vista or later. The content section allows authors to communicate the type and intent of content to AutoPlay without AutoPlay having to examine the media. Valid keys are, music files, picture files, video files. Each key can be set to indicate true or false values and values are not case-sensitive. True, display the handlers associated with that content type. False, do not display the handlers associated with that content type. Example. Exclusive content paths equals, Windows Vista or later, limits AutoPlay's content search to only those folders listed, and their subfolders. The folder names are always taken as absolute paths whether or not a leading slash is used. Example. Ignore content paths Windows Vista or later, AutoPlay's content search system will not scan the folders listed, nor their subfolders. Ignore content paths takes precedence over exclusive content paths, so if a path given in a Ignore content paths section is a subfolder of a path given in an exclusive content paths section, it is still ignored. Example. Device install Windows XP or later, this section is used to indicate where driver files may be located. This prevents a lengthy search through the entire contents of a CD-ROM. Windows XP will fully search floppy disks in drives A or B, CD/DVD media less than 1 GB in size, without this section present. All other media should include this section to have Windows XP auto-detect any drivers stored on that media. The section is not used with AutoRun or AutoPlay and is only referred to during a driver installation phase. The only valid key is driver path equals directory path, which lists a path Windows will search for driver files. All subdirectories of that path are also searched. Multiple key entries are allowed. If no driver path entry is provided in the device install section or the driver path entry has no value, then that drive is skipped during a search for driver files. Example. References. External links, http, dailycupoftech.com, http, Stack Overflow.com 1232966/AutoRun application while plug-in USB drive, http, www.samlogic.AutoRun.htm, http, www.mikujiovcomauto-launch-apps USB stick Windows / http, www.autoartscript.com/, http, Go 4 answers Ebost for Life.com launch net application USB drive 41597 ASPX.